Hi guys, it's Silky here with a Strategist tips video. Even though I don't consider myself high elo, I hope some of these tips can help you win your games or increase your game sense. And even if you're not going to touch this role, I hope it can give you some insight on the things that we look out for so you can always bait it out or counter us back. Hope you guys enjoy. As strategists, we need to prioritize these things: positioning, ult tracking and management, and value. In terms of positioning, you generally want to be out of sight so you don't get picked off and leave your team down a healer. You can do this by using the environment, playing behind walls, or taking high ground. You don't want to be in an awkward position that makes it hard to escape like you can see here. Although I'm playing out of sight, my positioning is really bad because I'm too close to my tank and ultimately I have nowhere to run without getting exposed. Patty caking with your other support is also super important. With you healing each other, the enemies have a lower chance of picking you off. So make sure you play close to each other or have awareness on their positioning so you can help them survive.
Oh, okay, I'm still alive, thank you.
And don't be afraid to run from your team to grab a health pack, because if you're dead, your team will be without heals anyways. Also, try to keep moving around as this makes you a harder target to hit. In a losing fight, if you survive a team wipe, if possible, escape and retreat to safety. It's important to survive so you don't stagger the team, because if I died right here, my team would be down a healer for over 10 seconds.
One guy though, right?
It's important to keep track of enemy ults and managing your own. One of the worst things a support player can do is double support ults, so make sure you communicate with your other support on who ults first. Make sure you also have any util necessary to counter or stall ults. This is like your freeze, shield, sleep, fade, cleanse, soul bond, or runes. I also opt for relying on these abilities before deciding if it's best to ult. Another thing to note is that if you're mirroring an enemy support ult, make sure you delay it a bit so yours outlasts theirs. Here, you can see I first check to see if our other healers have their ults before deciding if it's worth mirroring. Finally, knowing when to swap. If you keep dying when you ult, then it's time to swap. Although the chances of you winning increases when you play your best character, sometimes it's just best to swap if you're struggling to survive or you're not getting any value out of your champ. It's like the same concept as swapping to hit scan against flyers or a shield tank against poke DPS. So if you're struggling to survive dive, go invis, rocket, Jeff, or if you need to counter flyers, go Luna, Mantis, Adam. Now let's talk about my top 3 strategist picks and some tips on how I play them. First up is Invis. Her core strengths are her insane survivability, piercing healing and damage, and the ability to build ult charge quickly. In terms of positioning, make sure the enemies and allies are grouped or lined up. This is how you get the most value out of her, as her primary pierces through allies and enemies. So this helps build ult charge faster. Throwing your orb towards groups of enemies also helps this by dealing damage to multiple targets at once. Your orb is also strong against flyers as it brings them down, as you can see with this torch here. I like to save my push for anti-dive or to counter enemy ults. Also, your pull is strong to stop enemies from escaping or bringing them down from high ground. In terms of ult tracking, make sure you save your shield for tanking or blocking ults. But make sure you don't stray too far, otherwise it can still kill you.
Watch out!
And just remember, you can cancel her ults, so make sure it's not wasted. I also rarely swap off invis just because of how strong she is. However, if I catch myself continuously dying in or outside of my ult, or I'm just messing up the placement multiple times, then I'll swap off.
No.
Next up is Cloak and Dagger. Her strengths include her AoE healing, ability to build ult charge quickly, and her capacity to counter ults with her ability. Although people say she's one of the easiest supports to learn, I actually struggled quite a lot because her util is so overstimulating to me. Like, just look at how many cooldowns you have to manage. Firstly, I wouldn't do the reload cancel tech where you switch to cloak unless it's to throw a blind in between. Especially in a fight setting, I find it really hard to get it frame perfect for it to make a difference anyways. Positioning wise, I don't like to play too far back because one singular dagger does one of the least healing per hit, so if you play too far back, the enemy's damage output can exceed your healing output. Here is a good positioning example. I'm playing high ground to avoid getting sniped by Hawkeye ult, I'm able to see the whole team, I have vision on any flanks coming from the right, and I'm not playing so far back that my daggers won't reach in time. I can hear Psylocke and know she's about to ult, so I'm ready to switch to cloak, making sure to avoid penny mines so I don't explode, and luckily we're able to get a pick. Your wall and dagger storm in combination help to build ult charge as your wall grants allies a healing boost and your bubble grants high healing over time, though on beefy tanks I like to use this combo. That being said, if you're getting dove, use your bubble on yourself and your basic attack as it does splash self-healing off of enemies. When ulting, always make sure you switch to cloak first for easy access to fade to safety. I also like to use her ult in a forward direction ending in the enemy backline, and bonus if you get a pick. In terms of ult tracking, always make sure you have your fade ready to counter ults and to save your team or yourself. In this fight, I know that Strange hasn't ulted in a while, so he's probably looking for an opportunity. Because I know I'm able to bait it out, I remain on dagger to continue healing and then quickly switch to cloak and fade. In this clip, I ended up saving 4 out of 5 of us, and then I'm able to reposition back to the backline. The worst thing that can happen as cloak and dagger is having a fade on cooldown, so try to use your fade sparingly. Also, make sure you don't stay in cloak form preparing to fade, as it can leave the rest of your team vulnerable as you're not actively healing them. You can see here my cloak and dagger switches to cloak to counter Jeff, however, this leaves us vulnerable to other enemies, like this Namor who is trying to get a pick. Finally, if I'm struggling to get any value out of my ult by continuously dying, I'll swap to a different character.
Damn. Maybe I'll go Lena.
And with that, we have Luna Snow, who has crept her way back up into my rotation. Her strengths consist of her capacity to counter ults with her ability, her insane poke damage, and of course her powerful ult. Luna Snow is very reliant on having decent aim as there's little room for error. I personally play her the furthest back compared to the others since she has a lot of range. One of the strongest parts about Luna's kit is her freeze. This one ability is able to counter ults with ease, so make sure you have her snowball available if you know the enemy will try and ult. You can also utilize her freeze to stop enemies from escaping too. Situationally, if you're in a position where you can't grab a health pack or get healed safely, throwing your freeze randomly will heal you, or activating your clap will also grant you some health. As for her clap, it's strong because of its piercing ability and range. So similar to invis, try to line up multiple allies and enemies for simultaneous healing and damage, and try to remember to snowflake yourself while doing this too. Snowflake priority is another important aspect to consider. For me, I prioritize snowflaking my flankers as they are usually out of my line of sight, so they still get healed without me having to look at them. Next is flyers, and then your other healer. If running multiple DPS within the same category, I'll give it to the one with low survivability or mobility. Also, make sure you rotate your snowflake accordingly. Here, I have multiple critical teammates, so I decide to snowflake my Scarlet because I know she's not going to be in my line of sight, so that way she still gets healed while I'm healing up my tank. Although she did end up dying, if I hadn't reloaded, she would have survived. Luna also has the highest ult cost compared to other strategists in the roster, so it's also important to ensure it's not wasted. As well as this, because of the 300 or so overhealth when you pop her ult, if there's a mag already in the middle of ulting, you can always pop it as he throws it to tank it. If I'm struggling to hit my freeze against dive or I can't hit my shots, then I'll swap to another strategist. I hope this video has somewhat helped or has given perspective on what a strategist consider in your matches. I'll put a link in the description of my favorite creators for each strategist if you want to learn the other characters. Let me know what you guys think of this video. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content, then make sure to subscribe to my channel. And once again, thank you for watching.